Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale here in Abuja. Today, President Bola Tinubu has joined fellow African leaders in Beijing, China, as they attend the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit. Some of the leaders will be seeking funds for big-ticket infrastructure projects in conversation that is meant to better the lot of African countries and the relationship between the Asian country and the African continent. China has expanded ties with African nations in the past decade, furnishing them with billions in loans that have helped build infrastructure, but also sometimes sparked controversy by saddling countries with huge debts. But senior government officials from Nigeria, including the state governors and senior ministers, were on hand to receive President Bola Tinubu in Beijing. They will participate at that 9th Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit with the theme, Joining Hands to Advance Modernization and Build High-Level China-Africa Community with Shared Future. And the Minister of State for Defense here in Nigeria, Mr. Bello Matawalle, has now directed the Chief of Defense Staff and other military chiefs to move to Sokoto State with him as part of an intensified effort by the federal government to rid the northwest region of the menace of banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism. In a statement signed by the Director of Information and Public Relations of the Ministry of Defense, Henshaw Ogubuike, it says the relocation underscores the unwavering commitment of the federal government to restore peace and security in the region. The statement adds that while in Northwest, the minister and the service chiefs, led by the Chief of Defense Staff, will supervise operations and ensure that Bello Turji and his bandits gang are flushed out. Tonight, I'll be having a conversation with very respected Nigerian lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria and a human rights activist, Mr. Femi Falana. In the past week, he led a team to the police office over the invitation to the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, Mr. Joe Ajaero, and the situation that averted a planned strike by members of the union should Mr. Ajaero be taken into custody. Tonight, I will be engaging Mr. Falana in a series of conversations on the state of the nation. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana, who joins us now from Lagos. I appreciate your joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you very much, Shim.
Yeah. First, let me get your view on the statement released today by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, the NNPCL. NNPCL today says it faces financial strain due to PM supply cost, which is impacting supply sustainability. Olufemi Shonaye, the Chief Corporate Communications Officer at the NNPCL, in a statement today says that the company has acknowledged recent reports in national newspapers regarding the company's significant debt to petrol suppliers. This financial strain, according to the NNPCL, has placed considerable pressure on the company and poses a threat to the sustainability of fuel supply. And the NNPCL went further in that statement to say, in line with the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, the NNPCL remains dedicated to its role as a supplier of last resort, ensuring national energy security. They went further to say that, quote, we are actively collaborating with relevant government agencies and other stakeholders to maintain a consistent supply of petroleum products nationwide. Mr. Falana, what do you make of this sort of statement coming from the NNPCL as some sort of fear of further scarcity of petrol, which could also now worsen the kind of fuel queues that we see at different filling stations across the country?
Well, I'm worried that the discordant notes are oozing out of the seat of power with regards to the supply of petrol in the country. The NNPCL is coming out rather belligerently and assuring Nigerians that regular supply of assuring Nigerians that there will be regular supply of PMS. But in that statement, which is extremely loaded, then NNPCL is also talking about affordability, sustainability, and the rest of them. If you consider that statement, along with the official pronouncement of the Minister of State in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Honorable Enekin Lokobiri, who had said during the week that the country can no longer afford to sustain 600 naira per liter of fuel, because according to him, smuggling is on the ascendancy because the pipelines are old too, because of the nefarious activities of smugglers. Once again, Nigerians are being informed that very soon we are going to be collectively penalized for the criminal activities of smugglers. For me, the government has to come out clean. If it wants to increase the pump price of PMS once again, the government should announce it. This, what Nigerians are being subjected to, is unacceptable. And I was very embarrassed as a Nigerian. And I think majority of Nigerians are. If a government comes out to say that we are helpless, we are incapable to check the activities of criminals, smugglers, and therefore all of you will have to be held responsible. Whereas, and I'm challenging the minister publicly, that in 2010, the government entered into a PPP arrangement with a company called TPMS to install a cargo tracking system in the ports. That system for 1 year checked or monitored oil theft, smuggling of petrol out of the country. But what happened after a year? Criminal elements pressurized the government to cancel the contract. But the pressure on the government continued. By 2018, August 2018, the government awarded a 17 billion naira contract to check and stop smuggling of petrol out of Nigeria. In fact, all tankers taking petrol out of Nigeria were going to be tracked by a particular software, Aquila. But what happened? The money was criminally diverted. The software was not installed. And nobody up to now has explained what happened to the fund. In July this year, July 13, the same minister, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, announced that the Bola Tinubu administration had awarded 2 contracts worth $21 million to checkmate oil theft and smuggling of petroleum or petrol out of Nigeria. In fact, the contract, according to the minister, will be complemented with advanced cargo tracking. That was last month. For the same minister to come out and say that the government cannot stop smuggling. I think there are problems. There's a need for coordination in terms of information being dished out there by the government. But if you merge, if you consider the statement just made by the NNPC and the Minister at the statement of the Minister of State, I think there are problems. And Nigerians are being told to be prepared. If you want to stop fuel scarcity, sustainability is key. And we are being told petrol is being smuggled out of Nigeria. And the government said we cannot stop that. So to stop that, the question of sustainability and affordability will come in. So the government should come out and let Nigerians know what is the effect of the contract, because the contract will be executed in 180 days, according to the minister. So what are we expecting at the end of the 6 months? 2, we have been told that with effect from October 1st, the Dangote Refinery and Petrochemical Company in Lagos, as well as the other local refineries, are going to get steady supply of petrol on crude oil for refining. At the same time, again, we have been told that by September, the Port Harcourt Refinery, the Warri Refinery, and the Kaduna Refinery will be commissioned after several postponements. Now, the implication of that is that this country will be refining not less than 1 million barrels of crude oil per day, ceteris paribus, all things being equal. Now, what is the implication? Is the government talking to the management of NNPCL with respect to what to expect from the refineries? Is the government engaging the Dangote Refinery? What would be the implication of our giving you about 450,000 barrels of crude oil per day? So that Nigerians will know where they stand.
Mr. Falana, if I may jump in quickly. Yeah. So I'm worried, I don't know if you are, the statement released by the NNPCL today looks like some kind of disclosure on one hand and another kind of disclaimer on another hand. And I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one reading in this manner. It looks to me that the NNPC is telling us that there is trouble brewing, and the NNPC is going to come out now to say we have problem funding the operational cost of supplying PMS. Now, it does look to me that all of the fears that have been envisaged as to the pricing of the commodity is now being evidently put in our faces as a people, because if the market forces should determine the price of that commodity should not have remained the same since last year, May, when the president announced the removal of subsidy. We know what it means when you are not subsidizing and market forces are determining. And we do know that the exchange rate, the naira, is falling so badly to the dollar to about 1,600 from about 700 last year. It does mean something that as the dollar is appreciating against the naira, the price of that commodity should be rising. But that has not been the case. Rather, we are seeing more queues and more queues at the filling station. Agreed that government is not responsible largely for that product, which you have left, according to the PIA and its dictate, to the market forces. An essential commodity like that is scarce in the country, shouldn't a responsible government be talking every day to the Nigerian people? Shouldn't the government be seen on the street monitoring the supply of this product? Or what exactly? Am I the one that is overtly sensitive to this matter, which now I see more fear in the NNPCL statement, Mr. Falana?
You see, Sean, as I did say earlier, once the government begins to speak about affordability and sustainability in response to growing queues in filling stations, there are problems. And when you also consider the statement of the Minister of State in the Ministry of Petroleum Resources that the government can no longer sell fuel at 600 naira per liter. At the same time, we are being told that subsidy is gone and the government is no longer subsidizing. But again, we are told that we are still spending a colossal sum of about $10 billion per annum to subsidize. So somewhere, Nigerians are not being, there's no full disclosure on the part of the government. But this time around, with the statement coming out from the issue by the NNPC today, it is high time questions are asked by Nigerians. For instance, it is high time the importation scam was investigated. And I'm not talking of the joke that is going on in the National Assembly. Nigerians must now, the media must help. Civil society organizations must help to expose the fraud. Sheung, I'm not sure you know how many people have bought a car in the last 1.5 years. Even second cars. The point I'm making is that the number of vehicles on the road is being reduced. Yet we're told that during the days of boom, the NNPCL was spending, subsidizing 68 million liters of fuel per day. Now that there are problems, there is scarcity everywhere, there is poverty everywhere, new vehicles are not on the road, we are still paying for 68 million liters of fuel. Whereas before this regime came on board, a Comptroller General of Customs challenged the NNPC during a Senate hearing, public hearing, that it is not possible for the amount of fuel that is said to be smuggled out of the country, that we man the borders, because you will need about 2,000 tankers to take out the amount of fuel that the NNPC claimed that was being smuggled out. What has changed? So this is the time to expose the monumental fraud that has characterized the importation of fuel in Nigeria. But again, as I did say, new refineries are going to take off in September. The Dangote Refinery will start refining PMS, crude oil, and after we're going to have fuel in September. We're also being told now that the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna Refinery will also take. In fact, the NNPC has now announced that it will require some people to help them manage those refineries. So we cannot be having this development unless we are being deceived.
Mr. Falana,
and then you are talking of increasing the price.
Yeah, my fear, I'm happy that you are very optimistic about the dates, about the operations, or the restarting of some of these refineries. The Port Harcourt Refinery, I've lost count of how many promises on the dates that these refineries are supposed to come on stream. We've been promised over and over again on the dates they're supposed to come on stream. And one does not know what is happening. Billions of naira have been spent on those refineries, and they've not given us 1 dot or 1 liter of fuel or any petroleum product. The question as to those who are questioning the capacity of a Mele Kyari or the leadership of the NNPCL, as it is right now, is now coming to light. The biggest fear, Mr. Falana, is whether or not we are under a threat of fuel scarcity or petrol shortage. Is that what is looming right now, Mr. Falana?
Now, I lead an organization, ASCAP, that has already decided to engage the service of engineers to go to Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna to find out the state of the contracts. Because for the 2 refineries in Port Harcourt, the Buhari administration awarded the contract, the rehabilitation contract, for $1.5 billion. For Warri and Kaduna, $1.4 billion. So we cannot afford to have foreign contractors, mess up the country. So we want to find out, we're not talking of NNPC. We want to sue those contractors. If there is another postponement of the commencement date for those, for production, refining of crude oil in those 4 refineries. It is not the business of the NNPC unless there is more to it than what we are seeing. What is your business? You are not the contractor fixing the refinery.
But
why
Mr.
are you
Falana,
changing the dates?
What about those who are supervising or coordinating these repairs on behalf of the Nigerian people? Those who are in government, those who are in the NNPCL, they have the trust of the Nigerian people to supervise. It's over a year now that the government has promised under the Buhari government that this refinery was going to be ready. Are they taking for Nigerians for a joke, or what exactly is going on? And Nigerian people are suffering.
No,
their monies are being taken into these entities and they're not working.
No, Sheung, I am not sure the government is actually in control of the development around the oil industry. When you award a contract, I say timeline. The government awarded a 6-month contract last month, right? For tracking of ships that are taking crude out of Nigeria. The government also awarded a contract to track petrol being taken out of Nigeria. So we're making some progress. With respect to the rehabilitation of the refineries, again, there is a timeline. There is already a breach. We want to find out why we have the breach. Those who are in charge, because of the cabal of importers, are having problems taking charge of the situation on behalf of all of us. And that is why the media, the labor unions, civil society organizations will have to intervene in the interest of the Nigerian people, having regards to the reverberating effect of any increase in the price of petrol. We cannot afford to just simply continue to clap for the NNPC. No, we've gone beyond that level now. And we can't be treated like kids for your country, for an agency of government. The refineries will be commissioned next month. The contract for their rehabilitation, has been perfected. It's going to be December last year. Later it became March. Later it became July. Now it was August. Now it's going to September. We can't continue like this as a people.
I mean, I'm just imagining.
People will say,
Falana,
if you are being deceived.
Yeah, because if those kind of funny things are happening in a country like this, I'm imagining that the president he is the minister of petroleum, the substantive minister of petroleum. He should have word the big stick, because Nigerians are taken for a ride And this is quite unfair and getting one so emotional about the state of our country in some things that in other climes, that is what they do so easily. We find it so difficult to do. And it's so much so that a lot of criminal activities are going on and Nigerians are seeing it. Mr. Falana, let's take a break. When we come back, there's so much more to talk about because it does look like the state of the nation is at a fragile one. Look, you remember what happened at the removal of fuel subsidy last year? It affected the bottom line. It then meant that inflation figures went over and above what anybody could imagine. And now, for several years, it's gone so high beyond what we have ever estimated. Now, if fuel price is going to increase, that also will mean something. We'll be talking much more about the state of the nation, the politics of it, and where we need to go forward from here, everyone, when we return from this break. Thanks for staying with us on the program. Let's continue our conversation with respected Nigerian lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria, human rights activist, Mr. Femi Falana. Thank you so much, Leonard Sik, for your time tonight. Quickly, because I've got some other issues that I'd like us to discuss. Your final take on this fuel matter, because what worries me is the possibility of a hike in price and the possibility of the return or scarcity of the product in the country. And you know what happens? When that happens, prolonged sufferings for Nigerians. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think Nigerians should be prepared to challenge the NNPCL to come out boldly and let Nigerians know what the situation is. But I've also thrown the challenge to Nigeria to be prepared to join the issues with the government at every stage. No modern state can justify inflicting punishment of the people because of the criminal activities of smugglers. No. So Nigerians must reject any arguments, any reason adduced by the government that simply expose us to ridicule. Furthermore, all the agents of change in our society, trade unions, the progressive extraction of the civil society must be prepared to join the issues in the government. Because this fraud has gone on for too long. For too long. These guys in power for 25 years, both the PDP-led government and the APC-led government have given Nigerians the impression that what is going on in the oil industry or the crisis there cannot be solved. We have the PIA. It took over 20 years to have the PIA, the Petroleum Industry Act. We now have the PIA. Yet, things are getting worse by the day. And that is why we can no longer leave our affairs in the hands of the government. The government needs assistance. We must also challenge our governors and now the local government, because the three tiers of government are also being shortchanged by the NNPCL with respect to what goes to the federation account at the end of the day. So that is why all hands must be on deck to resolve this problem once and for all. We can't spend $2.9 billion to fix refineries. When the refineries are about to take off, we're now being told to be prepared for a new increase. No, it's unacceptable.
Absolutely. Look, when we wonder that those who are representing the Nigerian people, supposed representatives of the Nigerian people in the National Assembly, should be doing more. But of course, their own role in the scheme of things is now being questioned. And the spotlight is on them. As Serap today has gone to court to sue them, the National Assembly members, for fixing what it described as the running cost of lawmakers. And those who say we are paying too much to service less than 600 people at the mercy of the Nigerian people, at the mercy of those who are supposed to be serving them. In this kind of situation where there is rot in the sector, you would think that the National Assembly should rescue the Nigerian people and salvage the situation. What do you make of the Serap suit against the National Assembly?
I've tried to reach out to the leadership of Serap this afternoon to remind the organization that indeed there is a judgment which was delivered by the Honorable Justice Obiozo a couple of years back, where the court held that it is illegal and unconstitutional for members of the National Assembly to fix their own salaries and allowances, because by virtue of Section 70 of the Constitution, that is a duty imposed exclusively on the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Now, if that judgment has not been challenged on appeal, it is valid and subsisting. So instead of starting a new action, Serap, which was a party to that case, and I'm talking of the case of Monday Ubani and the National Assembly, what Serap and other concerned organizations and individuals should do is to come together and see how the judgment that have been delivered on this matter will be enforced. But nobody is above the law.
So the National Assembly had said, we do not fix anything that we take home, any salary that we take home. Ramfac is responsible. But it does look to me that the figures coming from some of the members of the National Assembly and Ramfac are totally different. And there are those who will say, look, leave your basic salary. Let us see, print out your bank statement. That is where we will see what you actually earn. Because when you say that your salary and allowance, there are those who believe that so much more money are going into the hands of these lawmakers beyond what is official.
Well, I don't think the impression should be given. I mean, we shouldn't demonize the National Assembly as it were. We shouldn't single out the National Assembly as it were. I mean, we are complaining about the SUV bought for 160 million naira per member of the National Assembly. I also know heads of agencies that have acquired 2 cars for about 700 million naira. So it has to be a holistic review of the perquisites of office, of public officers alone. But in the case of the National Assembly, whether they call it running costs, allowances, or whatever, there is already a judgment of the court. And to worsen the case, and I think the National Assembly members talking about running costs have not looked at the budget, the 2024 Appropriation Act. The total budget of the National Assembly for this year is 370 billion naira. Running costs are included. And when you talk of a running cost of an organization, it's the cost of keeping the organization going. Not, and that includes, you know, the cost of running the secretariat, I mean, the National Assembly complex, fueling the generators, electricity bills, and of course, in this instance, the salary and allowances of members of the National Assembly are different from the running cost of the National Assembly. There's no provision for running costs for individual members of the National Assembly, as far as the law is concerned. And you can go and check the budget. There is no such provision.
Quickly, Mr. Falana, well, I do think that a whole lot of the time that it's not so much about demonizing, it's also about accountability, especially for a National Assembly that has been in the eye of the storm for so many years. Maybe there's so much more they need to do for transparency's sake. But if you look at the questions that...
the Assembly alone, there are public officers who are riding 4 jeeps, 4 SUVs. So if you limit it to the National Assembly, there are problems.
But the question...
And that's the point I'm making.
The question about the executive, Mr. Falana, that those who are saying the ministers, heads of agencies, we do not know where this government is headed with the issue of the cost of governance, as they promise that they will cut cost of governance and implement the Steve Oronsaye report. In part, there are those who will say Steve Oronsaye report, in part, is still because there are a whole lot of commissions and agencies and parastatals that have been created since that report was submitted to government. I mean, isn't there an urgency that should be put in the matter of the implementation of the Steve Oronsaye report?
Without going to the Oronsaye report, we are talking of the cost of governance. And the cost of governance today has to do with the perquisites of office of members of the executive and the legislative branches of government. And it's not that we shouldn't be talking of the federal level alone. We shouldn't be talking of National Assembly members alone. It must be a holistic review. I mean, you can't have a public officer under the current harsh economic reality riding 10, 50 cars. No, there are problems with that. We must begin to ask, what is the take-home of every public officer in Nigeria? No, you can't talk of security votes when you should be budgeting for the security of the people in every state, so that at the end of the day, we know what it will cost a governor to run a state. We know what you should call the president to run the presidency. We know what every minister will need to run a ministry. And now that goes for the National Assembly. And of course, state legislature. We must even go to the level of local government in view of the judgment of the Supreme Court.
Mr. Falana, let me quickly remind our viewers of the yearnings or the agitation on the lips of members of the Patriots, those who visited President Bola Tinubu and are asking that there should be a composition or constitution of the Constituent Assembly of Nigerian people who will come together with a view or the intent of reviewing or changing the Nigerian Constitution. Well, they have met now and put up a committee. Let me allow you to listen to Chief Emeka Anyaoku, who is the leader of the Patriots, what he said in Lagos recently.
I believe that if you send the best leaders in the world to Nigeria to govern Nigeria under the present constitution, they would not succeed because of the nature of the constitution. The constitution we have now impedes development of the country because the federating units are not viable enough.
Mr. Falana, you heard what Chief Emeka Anyaoku says there. And my biggest fear is that you are one of those delegates to the 2014 confab under the Jonathan government. Where do we go from here? But we need to take a break. When we come back, I'd like to get your view and allow Nigerians to see where we needed to go perhaps the legality of what the patriots are asking for and the plausibility. We'll be right back after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Our final moment now with Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. NLC, give us an understanding of where we need to go from here. If Chief Emeka Anyaoku and the Patriots are saying no one can really get anything tangible out of this country with this constitution, and there's a need to compose the constituent union with the President Bola Tinubu, that if the Patriots are saying that is the way out for Nigeria, you participated in the confab of 2014. Give us an understanding. Is it so bad that this constitution leaves us between the rock and the hard place, or where exactly do we go from here?
Well, in 1999, it was felt that the country will need a new constitution. And the idea, the agreement then was that once we terminated military rule, then Nigerians can sit down and have a popular constitution drafted by the accredited representatives of the people. That has been made impossible. In 2014, there were about 600 recommendations arrived at by the majority of the delegates, because there were problems here and there. But majority felt we need a new constitution. But as far as the National Assembly is concerned, no other forum will be allowed to suggest or draft a new constitution for the country. So it has become a question of balance of power. And I have therefore come to the conclusion that unless you have a revolutionary government in Nigeria, it is going to be difficult to discard the 1999 Constitution. We haven't been able to mobilize national consensus, even on the part of members of the political class. I'm talking about a new constitution. There are those amongst them who believe that the status quo is the best for the country. And that is why since 1999, every session of the National Assembly has proposed some amendments that do not question the status quo. The current 10th session of the National Assembly has also set up a bipartisan committee to go around the country and propose new amendments. I can assure you, those amendments will not question poverty in the midst of plenty, will not question how Nigeria can feed ourselves, will not question how we can get 18 million out of school children enrolled in schools, will not question unemployment for the majority of our young people, will not question infrastructural decay in our country. So once you have this kind of picture before you, the demand for a new constitution has gone beyond calling on the president to convene a sovereign national conference. People have to struggle. It's a question of power now. You have to struggle because those who are in power are not ready to give up power. Hence, they are acquiring more enablement to empower them to sustain and maintain the status quo. Those who want a new country under a new autochthonous popular constitution will have to struggle for it. we'll have to mobilize our people for it. For instance, that kind of mobilization of the people will confront the National Assembly when they are going to conduct public hearing in respect of their own proposed amendments. If Nigerians are united in rejecting instrumental amendments of the Constitution, artificial amendments of the Constitution, and amendments that do not go to the root of the problems confronting the country, then it will be a new game entirely. So, but now, to make occasional demand, even the guys in the National Assembly will simply say, oh, well, these members of the Petrol are exercising their freedom of expression.
But Mr. Falana, that's the attitude. Like you said, there are those who will believe that part of what a lot of Nigerians are looking for is perhaps lawmakers that are probably part-time, a unicameral legislature, and if the lot of the lawmakers that we have think that their existence in the National Assembly or their political relevance is threatened by a new constitution, it might be difficult for them to agree to such a thing. But where do we go from here, though? Do you think, for example, if President Bola Tinubu has the political will to enforce or make this happen?
It goes beyond the president. The point I'm making, the people in power are not likely to, as it were, commit class suicide by saying, come and take away our benefits. They're not likely to say that. But I am saying, if the struggle is intensified for a new constitution, the executive, I'm talking of the president and members of the National Assembly, will have no choice in the matter. That is the position.
Yeah. Let me close the program by.
But to talk of a new constitution, you will need a new government, a revolutionary government that will change the social order of oppression, of exploitation, of abuse of power, abuse of office. You will need a revolutionary government.
I'm dreaming of such, if it's going to be for the good of the Nigerian people. We need to close the program.
For sure.
But Mr. Falana, let me get your final thought just in about 40 seconds about you taking your client, Mr. Joe Ajaero, the NSC president, to the police. Because the investigation, the police said that they went there for a foreigner who is threatening democracies of some other country and that of Nigeria. What more do we know, especially your interaction with the police on that matter?
Well, my duty was to take my client to the police. And even when over 2,000 workers wanted to follow the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress to the police, we had to make it clear to them that we mustn't give the impression that the labor movement was trying to intimidate the police. Because from the information at my disposal, there wasn't much to read. And when we met the police team led by a very enlightened police officer, DCP Sanusi, a professor of criminology, the interaction was quite interesting. Of course, it's all about the tenant in the NSC office, and it was made clear.
All right.
There wasn't any criminal activity on the part of labor.
All right.
So, and it was an interaction that lasted just about 20 minutes. So it turned out to be a storm in a teacup at the end of the day.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr.
So there isn't much story. Right. But we are waiting. Charges have now been filed in court. We are waiting for the state to prosecute those who they claim were trying to commit treasonable felony.
Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and rights activist. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you on the program. Thank you so much for your views on the state of the nation tonight on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. I've got a very interesting conversation that is cooked up for tomorrow, everyone, at 7 p.m. I'm sure Kimale. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless Nigeria.